This is down on Phuket in an area called Patong. And Kevin and I were driving down there because I had a fight. We've never been down south before, so this is our first trip down to the south of Thailand. And when we found out that we had the opportunity to go down there, one of the first people that we thought of that we wanted to train with and get for the Muay Thai Library was Pot. Pot used to be over at Sylvie Muay Thai, and there was this very, I don't know if you could even call it a famous video, but a very memorable video of him clinching with Sanchai, who at the time was kind of connected with Sylvie as well. And it's not just like a normal let's clinch video. They were getting Sanchai ready for some fight where he was going to be fighting, I think, someone significantly bigger than him, and Pot is significantly bigger than Sanchai. So he's got a lot of weight on him. But it's this video of kind of a Shark Tank situation of really putting it on Sanchai in the clinch, and Pot is just so incredible in this video. He is just killing Sanchai, and there are moments where Sanchai kind of like puts his femur styling on where he's actually just staying out of the clinch, which if you've clinched in Thailand, you're not really allowed to do during clinch training. So eventually he just gets kind of like swallowed back into it. But I was really impressed. Kevin was really impressed by this video that is a few years old now. But so when we found out we were going down to Phuket, we really wanted to go see Pot, who is no longer at Sylvie. Now he's at a gym called Phuket King. And this highway that we're driving on right now, this is the drive up to the gym. And it's really beautiful. It's just a little like 2 lanes in each direction, but this highway cuts all the way down through Phuket. And the gym, Phuket King, is just off to the side of it. It's just on that you totally could miss it as you're like driving by. It's a sweet, kind of very intimate, small gym right on the side of the road that Pot is the head of. And I've never been down south before, so like my image of Phuket is kind of these massive gyms. Sylvie was big, is big, Tiger is big, like just these kind of enormous, beachy kind of commercial type gyms. So I was really happy to find Phuket King, just in order to be able to, when people are going to travel to Thailand, not every gym is perfect for every person. Some people really want like the Tiger Muay Thai experience, and some people really don't want that. So to be able to go to Phuket and have like this complete spectrum of possible experiences is really cool. If you're Muay Khao, 100% go see Pot, as not only a Muay Khao stylist, like in his own style, it's so beautiful. He's got this like super punctuated style, but also as a teacher, he's really, really good. I really enjoyed this session. I had a lot of fun, and the way that he's able to break down not only the technique that he's trying to teach, but what you're doing in order to kind of make the adjustments towards what he's trying to get out of it. He's really got a keen eye for that. He's really good. I can see why they made. So here we're just starting out with Pot is watching me shadow box, which is something that you'll see a lot when you go meet someone for the first time. They really just want to see what you do, how you move, what to improve on. It's kind of like a diagnostic phase. And he's watching me throw these marching knees, and immediately he pinpoints that off balance point right there as my knee is trying to come back off of its point. And I corrected it a little bit, when I realized what he was trying to check. But he's going to make a point about flat foot versus coming up on your toe. There he's flat foot. Here he comes up on his toe, and for him, there's no difference between those two. He's on balance for both of them. Sylvie, when I'm going up on my toe, I'm twisting my foot. See how he fell forward off of the striking point of the knee? He didn't keep his balance all the way through. So you can come up on your toe, and indeed, in many technical applications, you should come up on your toe. You can stay flat-footed. But when you come up on your toe, it's really important not to turn on the ball of your foot, because that's what makes it so that you can't come back, and so that you're basically like blowing out your shot on the knee. If you're a knee fighter, for Muay Thai, it's really important to be able to throw more than one. So how you balance is really important. Here he's correcting. I'm doing this thing that so many Westerners do. We like pull our hands down as we're throwing the knee. I don't know where we learned that, but a lot of us learn that. So he's correcting my guard. See how he's showing how if the opponent gets out of the way, I'm off balance? So he's like, if you miss your shot, you need to be on balance to not be off balance as you're landing from missing, but also to fire another shot. So his solution is to use this reach across and grab the neck.
But if you knee, but you don't grab, maybe
he says if you knee but you don't grab, maybe your opponent goes away. So he says it's better to grab the head or the neck. There's two reasons for this. One is that if you touch with your hand, if you can touch the neck or the head with your front arm, you're definitely close enough for your knee to land. Two, if you latch them with it, they're not going anywhere. So here he's showing how to keep the opposite side arm up. So I'm reaching with my forward arm to latch onto his neck, but my opposite side arm has to be in block, because if my opponent isn't a dummy and knows that I'm coming with my knees, they can counter with this hook. So if I grab the neck, even if he throws that hook, there's no power on the hook. He's saying you still have to pull your arm down even when you've latched the neck. It's like you're throwing it on a kick or something with this torque. In order to have power on the knee, you don't just leave it out hanging. He said it's the same as when you swing your hand when you kick. That's what it looks like when you don't swing your arm when you kick. He liked that. He felt the difference on that one. So see how he's up on his toes? This is how he shadow boxes. He's like, stay up on your toes for your knees in order to learn this balance of how to come back down so that I'm not twisting. So he's talking about straight knees versus side knees. That's like a Silipatai knee. If you guys watch Silipatai in the Muay Thai Library, he has this crazy knee that looks like it's a kick. That's not what Bunpot's talking about. A side knee basically is a knee that you throw. It's kind of like the chicken wing knees that you throw skipping on a bag, and your foot comes outside your hip so that ultimately your knee is being pointed in, but it's not a straight knee. A straight knee is good for when you've locked in the clinch and you're just going to be like gutting up the center. But so these are side knees.
You can see Muay Thai, if you're same style like me, what do you think left or right knee better?
So for this voiceover, Bunpot was actually speaking English a lot in the early part of this, so I'm going to be kind of letting him speak a bit and clarifying. Right here, he's showing if I'm right-handed and my opponent's right-handed, what knee do I want to throw? And I said my left knee, and he was surprised that I knew that, because that's the open side. It is astonishing to me now that I know about the open side how little we are taught this in the West. It's so big and so important in Muay Thai in Thailand, and it's something that took years to even be pointed out to me by Karahat in the Muay Thai Library. So he's saying if you want a knee, you have to come close. So he steps away from me so that I have to walk into knee, and he just teeps me on my way in, showing that you have to have weapons on your way closing distance for that knee that you want to land.
You can jab first.
So he's saying jab first because it gets the opponent to kind of like cover up.
Then you can jab two jab. Go now. Okay, one more time. Stop. You have to know.
So look at this distance that he's putting himself at in front of me.
Or far. If close,
So far means I have to take a step in order to even reach him. Close means I'm already on him and can throw that knee. So this is the distinction that he's making between those two distances. He's saying don't switch your feet if you're far away. But if you're too close, you just do like a little skip step before you throw the knee. He said there's very little time between when you jab and she's protecting herself and you throw the knee while she's covered. People only cover for a second and then they reopen. So you really want your timing from the jab to the knee to be in that tiny window when someone is still protecting themselves. He's saying check first, how. What he means is, how do I get in? Like, see how they respond. If you jab them, do they cover? If they don't, that's not your way in. If when you jab, they cover, now you know your timing for when you're going to take that step. He's saying rounds 1 and 2, you really are watching your opponent and like diagnosing everything. If you guys want to learn some Thai, that's going to be used in camps a lot, especially for knee fighters. He's saying knee go by. He's using the loan word knee for a knee. You can also say tango by, but it basically means the knee is going to get in, like the knee is landing. So when you're playing around with someone and they're going tango by, knee go by, it means like the knee is getting in. It's a fun thing to yell as you're landing knees on somebody. So now he's showing how to counter the jab, right? So he just taught me to use the jab to land my knee. Now this is if I have an opponent who's going to be coming towards me, someone who's similar in style and wants to come forward. I'm parrying his jab with my backhand, which is the same side as what his jab is coming on. And then I'm basically climbing up his arm and reaching across with my front arm to grab his neck. This distinction he's making here is where my foot lands as I'm coming to knee him. I'm walking forward, so my back leg is coming forward. If my right foot lands inside his stance, he can trip me as I'm stepping forward. So when I step forward, I want to step outside his front foot in his stance so that he can't trip me as I'm coming in. This is very Yod Kun Pan. If you guys watch the Yod Kun Pan sessions in the Muay Thai Library, he has this like climbing up to the neck thing in a really beautiful, scary way. Pot is saying don't grab the shoulder because it's just going to slip off. You have no grip. So you really want to like latch onto the back of the neck. Your hand is more or less just scooped. It's like a little hook, and you like land it on the back of the neck, and you can't really grip with a glove on. So it's not about squeezing your hand, it's about the weight of your hand. It's like how a hammer is heavy at the end. Your arm is heavy where your hand is. See how I can manipulate him with that pull? That's from the weight of my hand. That's not from like gripping. Oh, he's making a point about not letting go. Like, don't parry, grab the neck, knee, and then run away. If you can keep holding them and keep throwing that knee. People love to strike and run away. It's not how it works with Muay Thai, especially. This is really nice too. This is a variation, right? So this is the parry of the jab, grabbing the neck and throwing the knee. You can also kick out their front leg with the exact same opening. So you're still opening with the parry of the jab, but you're just using your front leg to kind of kick out their front leg, which is where all their weight is, because if they're jabbing, their weight is coming forward. And that allows you to land your knee into an off-balance person. We're stopping to put shin pads on. You don't necessarily have to wear shin pads to practice this, especially because you're not supposed to be like soccer punting the leg. You're just kind of hooking it a little bit with like the where your foot meets your shin. The reason he's having me put shin pads on for this is because I'm fighting in a couple of days, and he's doing the like make sure you don't have any like dings on your shin thing. It's a very polite, nice, considerate thing for him to have me put shin pads on to not hurt myself while doing this. But you do not have to wear shin pads if you're doing this correctly, because again, you're not kicking the leg. You're kind of like Bugs Bunny, hook off the stage, pulling it. Karahat teaches this in one of his library sessions. It's really good. He spent a lot of time showing me how not to kick it, but rather to like hook it. Krupat is making a point about having power and technique. He says if you don't have power, no matter what technique you know, you can think it, but you can't do it. So like, power is what makes the engine actually go. So he's saying don't step forward when you're kicking that leg out, like you don't switch your stance. You just pull it out. See how his back foot just twisted a little bit? Oh, he's so fast and long with that.
And sometimes you're ready.
He's just having me feel the timing on it.
Maybe she like this.
So now he's showing how to double up on it. So it's the same opening, and it depends on distance. I can parry his jab and climb up and throw the knee straight away, or I can parry the jab, kick the leg out, and throw the knee into him as he's kind of like doubled over. He says if someone's style is like this, right? So they're kind of like marching forward, standing in. This is really good. If their style is this femur dancing around where you have to chase them all the time, you can't really use this like parrying of the jab thing. This is for someone who's coming towards you. Knee go by. See how he put my foot outside my hip a little bit more? He wants that to angle my knee in towards the center. And so now he's pointing to parts of my body showing where you want to target your knees. It's the solar plexus, because that'll kill you. And then kind of the floating ribs, more or less. So he's punching me straight in the middle of the stomach. And he's like, people have muscles there. They can tense up and protect themselves. You cannot tense any muscles in your solar plexus or around your floating ribs. You just don't have them. So that's where you want to target your knees. Knee go by. There it is again. So here he's making a point about I need to stay hitched onto him with my arm, but I also have to bring my knee and my leg back in order to repeat that knee. See how I can't get away? You're keeping your opponent from being able to escape, but you also have to bring your leg back so that you can repeat the strike. There are two things going on at the same time there. See how my hand is like not grabbing his neck so he can get away from me. I'm kind of like slapping his shoulder. Look at my right hand, it's awful. You have to create the little hook, and watch how his hand latches onto my neck and he pulls at the same time. It's not hard, like it's a very simple thing, but you have to like latch it. It's almost like how if you have like a catcher's mitt and the ball just kind of drops into it, you're just kind of like latching your hand onto the neck. It says Muay Thai is about timing. This is a big thing. This is what sets Thailand apart from everywhere else, is that Thai fighters have the best timing, rhythm.
I tell you, first, knee, you want to try to knee, but knee is when close, understand?
He's saying you want to knee, but knees are for when you're already close. So you have to get in first. So he's like, I taught you the jab. The jab is one way to get in. Teep is another way to get in.
Knee, let knee. Enough? Okay, now, look at me. If she push,
so this is if your opponent is trying to keep you off. If your opponent is push kicking you, in Thai they say bat. Bat is to like bat away the teep. So that's one way. Another way is to catch it.
You have to know when she jab, she punch, she kick, she do something, and how to me after that.
So he's saying you have to watch what your opponent does, whether she's going to be jabbing or teeping, and then what you have to do in order to come in to land your knee off of that as a counter. So see, when he catches the kick, he pulls me over to one side or the other. If he pulls me to the outside of his front leg, he can just step into my open side and land that knee. If he goes to the other side, he's going to have to come over the leg that he just threw. He's saying you can parry left or right hand, or you can just always keep it the same arm. It doesn't matter. What you need to pay attention to is which side you're parrying to, because that determines how you're countering. He said if you're right-handed, if your right side is stronger, you want to pull. See how whether I teep left or right, he catches it the same. He doesn't change his hands. What's different is which side of his body he's pulling it to, and whether it's going to be a step-in direct knee, or whether he's kind of pulling it down to off-balance me so that he can jump over it.
Also, you can step forward.
Look at how he guards as he's stepping forward.
Okay, enough. Enough. Show me, try to grab. One, stop, one more. Easy first, one, stop. If you want to...
See how I'm turning the catch and the pull into two very separate pieces? He catches the teep against his body. This is something that Diesel Noi does also. It's kind of like catching a football. But catching it on your body or away from your body, the important part is that once you've grabbed it, you just do a little pull to one side or the other to like slightly extend the balance of what your opponent was doing. You don't have to yank on people. It's just like a little off balancing. There I don't even let go of his leg because I'm stepping into the open side. If I'm going to be doing that jumping thing, then I can let go of the leg, but he still wants me to catch his neck as I'm jumping in. He's saying if you pull, it's to make them off balance. See how he just yanks it a little bit? It's not a like power clean. And then he's still controlling me with his arm on the back of my neck all the time. Digo bye. Digo bye. In Thai, for knee, you say di. Digo bye.
Jump. Yes. Pull back a little bit.
Oh. See how I'm not catching his neck, and he can feel how I've fired my shot, and that's the only one I have because I'm not latching him. If I land on his neck, he not only is more susceptible to the knee I'm actually throwing because he's off balance and like doubled over, but he's susceptible to another one. I'm correcting myself here. I grabbed his shoulder instead of his neck. So I'm catching his kick now. And again, step over to the side to take out a little bit of the power of the kick itself. But he made a point that you have to block on the opposite side. I can tell you from fighting Tananchino, who's really good at when her kick is caught, she will just blast you in the face immediately. You need to guard when you catch a kick against punches. Yeah, so he's saying that you have to protect yourself when you catch that kick because you don't know whether your opponent has a counter. He caught my kick and immediately punched me in the face, which offense is sometimes a very good defense. So instead of catching the kick and immediately throwing the knee into his guts, you can catch the kick, punch him in the face, and then throw the knee. Look how pretty that little step is. He's catching the kick and doing like this little slide over to take the impact out of the kick, but it's also setting up for the right cross. That was lame. That's not how you do it. Watch how pretty. Oh, God, it's so fast. So he's saying don't knee, just do the punch. And I'm imitating his little like skip over. It's really nice. I need to tuck my chin a little bit to like, because I'm coming in close with that cross. But you can see how the knee just kind of like carries on top of it. He says if you want a knee first, that's why it's really important to have your guard up. So you can even let them punch you once. You have your guard up, they punch you, and then you just knee straight off of it. You're like immediate counter. Oh,
cannot go together. If you grab, punch, you protect, bang.
So he's saying wait for the punch first and then grab. If you try to grab while they're punching, you lose. Timing. It's all timing.
ไม่ได้ After punch you can grab.
So after punch you can grab.
We catch and punch. You see it, right? Again, you see it, right?
So this is really important for knee fighters. You're always coming forward, right? Like you're the forward fighter, you're always coming forward. But that doesn't necessarily mean be first, the way that you hear a lot in the West. People always want to be striking first. A lot of what he's showing me here are opportunities when you can be first, like me jabbing, which is setting up for my knee. But also, sometimes your opponent goes first, and when they've already fired their shot, you have a better counter on top of it. So now his weight is on his back foot, and he's ready to teep. So he's kind of vacillating between if you have an opponent who's going backwards versus if you have an opponent who's coming forward. So if you have an opponent who's coming forward, you want your weight on your back foot and that front leg bouncing. This is very diesel noi, getting ready to teep. But that doesn't mean you stay that way all the time. Like you can switch between the two based on whether your opponent's going forward or backward. This is a really nice way to come forward as a knee fighter, the way he's marching in right now. So see, as a knee fighter, he's actually setting his stuff up with jabs and teeps. But he's bringing his knees up like this to block and discourage kicks. Because if you're facing a kicker and you're coming forward, they're just timing you coming forward for their kicks. So you want those knees coming up as fake blocks or real blocks, discouraging their kicks. And then you're teeping to interrupt their ability to post as well. So if you just march forward like that, it's very easy for people to just parry and like pivot off to the side. So he's showing what the susceptibility of this style, if you're just marching forward with your knees up, is. I actually really like this part. I'm not a kicker, but I love this, which is as you're kind of coming backwards and timing, you're timing when his block comes down. So that's how you go backwards. When you're timing someone and going backwards, you want to kind of like come back in little increments, and then his knee is up. As the knee comes down, because the other leg's going to come up, that's when you time your kick. You're timing his walking. Like one foot in front of the other is the way that works. So you time it for when the leg comes down. Look at his weight as he does that. That's really nice. He's so measured. So he wants me to do the marching thing so he can show. And then if I decide to teep him, he just waits for that and throws it off to the side. He's like someone who marches forward like this, they just want a knee and teep. So if you're the one going backwards, you time their knees coming up and the teep.
Okay. And also, you ready to grab?
Get ready to grab the teep. So I'm saying if I'm the one coming forward and I'm the one bringing my knees up like this, look how he does it. He just uses his knee to get my teep away from him. It hurts, man. Your toes like split across the shin. It sucks. Or he just kind of parries it with his shin bone. This is one that you actually do want to wear shin pads for if you're going to be practicing it. No matter how delicately you do the block with your knee on someone's teep, it kind of hurts.
Jab, punch, okay, now enough. And also Muay Thai, I showed you jab, knee, not easy like this. Good fighter, they know.
He's saying I taught you how to jab and step in and knee. And he's like, this isn't easy if you fight a good opponent. If you're coming in with your knees and someone just pushes on your chest, they can keep you off of them. So he's showing how to actually parry someone trying to push your chest as you're coming into knee.
Or she stay. Don't worry after. Up to her. You block. Understand? This for
So I don't even have to be jabbing necessarily. I just have my guard up, and he can parry that front arm.
ใช่เขา protect ใช่ไหมนี่ or she don't protect but she hand like this.
So he's saying even if she's not jabbing or protecting herself, even if her guard is just kind of long, you can push that front arm to the side, like parry it to the side. So one of the difficulties of being a forward fighter is that if you just come straight, you're pretty predictable. So he's showing ways to like march forward, but actually like push your opponent off to the side instead of yourself being like a sidewinder.
This first when you try to forward me.
So see how I'm putting my leg up or I'm putting my hand on his chest? I'm trying to defend myself from him coming forward. And he's showing how to basically just push that out of the way and keep coming forward.
If she protect like this, also you have to protect like this, and you can go pitching after.
So see how he's parrying my defense off to the side, landing his knee, and then grabbing me in the clinch immediately. Like, you don't finish the move by like, I landed my knee and now we like start over again. You want it to flow into holding them in that range and position. So that's the hand on the neck or grabbing them in the clinch to like keep them at the range that you've been working to get to. He likes those knees. he can feel that I like those knees too. See how I'm landing off balance? Even though I'm like grabbing him on the back of the neck and I'm landing that knee really hard, I'm kind of like throwing myself forward. That's why he was saying at the beginning it's so important to have control in your shadow, so that doesn't happen when you throw it at full force. Look how unbalanced he is all the time.
But I think for me, if you block, better to move inside.
So this is if someone puts their knee up to kind of block you. You just go towards their foot. You just step outside of it. He's going outside my front arm. He's like, if someone is kind of like hopping and you try to just take a step back, they can follow you. See how he's just following me. Whereas if I pivot off to the side, he can't follow me.
If you go to the side,
I have no power this way. I'm still staying up, I'm still keeping my leg up, but as he goes to the side, I have no power to strike him on anything.
Oh. Okay. Remember.
He's thinking. He's like, what now?
This good to knee, straight good to knee, remember? If this, maybe no.
So he's saying this is too far to grab the neck and knee.
But if you know before, this good for kick. If my hand is doesn't touch to your
He's saying if my hand can't touch you, that's kicking distance. If my hand can touch you, that's knee. So you use your hand like as an antenna, like as a feeler or a cat whisker. Like you know how close you are by whether your hand can touch or not, and then you know whether you can knee or kick or elbow.
If you want to knee, you're feeling already hand touch my neck. Okay.
He says if you want a knee and you feel me on the end of your hand already touching, then you know that you can land it. He's really putting that jab on me, and I basically have to eat a couple of them because that happens, and then with my timing, parry it.
Okay, now learn to count. What's your style? Lock. What your lock?
So he's asking me what's my clinch style, and I said I lock. So he's like, how do you lock? He wants to see what my hands do. And he's like, meh, it's okay. Like, if you're wearing gloves, this is a little bit hard. He knew I was about to have a Karchuk fight, so he's like, in Karchuk, you can do this.
this มวยไทยเชือก
because you're not wearing gloves.
น่วม is not
But he says with gloves, that's going to slide quite a bit.
ขึ้นมาล็อก this good for มวยไทยเชือก but you can do also with gloves I lose one person on this go fight very strong this lock and holding down
So he's saying if you're strong with your forearms, you really want to be like pulling down on the neck because it drains your opponent, and then also to use your head as like another appendage.
lock give someone like this it's hard try to
So because I locked so tight, it's hard for him to get out of it. See how he's trying to like swim in and out? He's going to make himself tired just trying to get out of my lock. But I can't be too stagnant in it. You can't just stay in a locked position.
if someone come to lock need good to take quickly
He's saying if someone comes to lock,
teaching if
You.
hand is not locked
how do you control? In Thai they say like hand, which means to control the arms.
เข้าใจไหมokay hand up stop you know how to lock you know
So see how I'm controlling from the elbow,
okay
and then I've got one hand on the neck. So I use my elbow so that he can't really swim in, and then when he tries to go over, I like windshield wiper my elbow over. So he's trying to create a little bit of space because I can't actually knee from this position. That knee has no power with how close I was. So his open side is my left knee at this point. So I have to bring my body back to create space in order to throw that knee. But he's showing how when I make that space, I've made space for him too. So pull his neck as I'm making the space so that he's off balance and only one of us can throw that knee. If I don't pull his neck with me, if he's upright and in good posture and I move my leg, it's 50-50. Either one of us can throw that knee.
This good protect this don't make her hand scratch your neck understand up inside again stop inside again
So see how we're swimming for position with his left arm and my right arm? I'm actually got it into a position here that's a problem for me.
you have to lock my
I
hand
overturned
around.
with my left arm, and he's got a face smush on me, and I can't quite get out. So as he's pushing my face, quickly, I have to go over and like hook his arm.
If you want to pull it up to my neck and grab pull.
So see how I banana peeled, I call it banana peel, down along his body, so I've pinned his arm to his body. Don't stay there. He's like, once you've opened that up and you want to turn, you immediately bring that hand back up to the neck to control. He likes to control from the neck. He made himself small for me. That's very nice.
It's good now. I feel good. Okay, stop.
So see how I'm controlling his arm. But once his arm is down like that,
Like this.
I should be coming up and grabbing his neck.
She tried to push, but when she tried to push, you lock my arm.
See, as he's trying to push my face,
Just stop. Head your chair.
my arm is on the inside. So as he's lifting, I can more or less the same banana peel down on that side, but turn it into an arm hook. And then because he's distracted on that side with the arm hook, I can come up to his neck on the other side.
You have to know Muay Thai is feeling, pinching, feeling. I move, you move. I move, you move. I move, you move. I move, you move.
So he's saying, I move, you move. I move, you move. Like you want to stay in pace with your opponent who's moving and trying to find a better position in the clinch, and then get ahead of them with like a power move, like yanking the neck or taking distance for a knee or turning or something like this.
Stop. No, if I still like this, what you do?
So see how his shoulder is up by my elbow? My elbow has to go above his shoulder, and then I can arm hook. If you want to see a really good breakdown of this, go watch the Namsak Noi session. He shows how to actually twist your thumb down so that your elbow comes up, and then you can like peel that arm down. He's saying if you get stuck in this position where like I'm overturned and he's got his hand on my face, just put your leg up on his legs to keep him from kneeing and let the ref come break it. It's basically like acknowledging this is going to get worse before it gets better and try to get the ref to come break it. I don't like that in my own style, but I understand why he's saying that because I was in a very bad position there.
I tell you feeling right. move. Can see, not see, no problem. ไม่ดูเข้าใจไหม
He says you don't have to look. He says see, not see, no problem. You don't have to look at what position the opponent is in. You have to feel what position the opponent is in.
You can knee 2 times, 3 times. Okay, stop.
When I have a lock like that, see how both my hands are around his neck? He's like, from this position, oh, I had an underhook and on his neck. When I have him locked like that, he's like, you can knee multiple times. Like, you're in a good position, keep kneeing.
You just try to one knee, she come close, you protect again. Back to my arm, protect again. เข้าใจไหม
สลับได้ครับ
นี่ได้ you can do left or right hand. We have to stop.
So see how I move to the side to land that knee? And he said you can go to either side. It's just about pulling them, like off balancing them, and then throwing the knee. He's thinking.
This, if she tall one,
He's like, if they're tall, it's hard to grab the
you
neck.
have to make space, hold like this, okay? If you make space like this, good for.
He's saying if you make distance like this, it's good for her.
You have to make this, and also I think you can knee on the legs.
So if your opponent is tall,
If she tall one,
you're actually going to go after the legs a little bit because you don't have a really good grip on the neck of a tall opponent.
right arm like extend
You go right into the like IT band with your knee. It's so painful.
also lock on the hip. If she
So this is a body lock.
lock like this, knee on the leg.
So if you lock low, you can still knee the thighs, like stay kind of active until the ref comes and breaks you, but you're doing damage while you're locked. So after you've kneed the leg, step behind it, and then you just kind of like, it's kind of to the side. You kind of like yank them to the side.
Lock strong. Oh, sorry. Okay.
He's big and heavy. I'm trying to kind of go like forward a little bit. I really need to be kind of coming to the side to trip him over my thigh. He's pinching with his forearms. Like his grip is not actually with his hands. He's pinching together with his forearms when he goes around my waist. It's really painful. You can totally take someone's breath that way.
One hand, okay? Your leg is like this. If you lock right hand, back. Okay, this for right hand. But if you lock two hands, same, okay?
So he's saying if you have a double grip, keep your feet even, like you're squared up.
But you lock
Whereas whichever hand is on the arm,
fighting.
that's the leg that's going to be behind you. So if one's on the neck and one's on the arm, you want to stagger your stance. But if you have both arms in a lock around the neck, you want to be really squared up.
Because
Here, see how he's positioning my elbows kind of closer to his shoulders?
fighter, they make twist shoulder. Understand? But if you here,
If your elbows are too narrow, if they're like in the middle of your opponent, they can use their shoulder to kind of crush you to the side, which is why he kind of wants his elbows out ever so slightly, because it's interrupting my shoulders as I try to like wiggle in or kind of move his arms. It's like if you're making an 11 with your forearms, like, and they're just kind of straight up and down, too close to the center of his chest on both sides. He can use his shoulders to rotate me.
Forward knee. Yep. Step forward knee.
But see how I can go forward or I can kind of pivot to the side for these knees? You want to be like off balancing your opponent as much as possible. If they're trying to keep their balance, they're not throwing strikes. And so only one of you is, which is really good. He's trying to get me to throw knees while stepping forward, like marching forward with knees. And I was kind of rushing it a little bit. He wants the like timing on it. Long Swan, watch Long Swan in the Muay Thai Library. He has the most beautiful pulse forward knee.
And open hand. Understand? This open hand. And when lock, also lock. Lock this.
So see how he's making sure that my fingers are like into his neck? You can do that when you're wearing a glove. You can kind of like grip into it a little bit, but it's more about how the hand is positioned than actually holding with your hand.
And up, away. Okay, now learn, look at me. This one, learn to switch shoulder. If you try to lock on your face,
So he has a double lock on me, and I have my hand in the like crook of his elbow, and then one of them is on the back of his neck. I'm pushing my shoulder against his forearm. You really have to pinch it against your jaw and make kind of a sharp move, but it creates a slight opening. See how I can do it on either side? You create the slight opening, and then you yank.
left or right side, okay? Maybe she's strong this side, you can move this side. Whoop.
So you want to constantly be switching sides and moving. It's what he said before, where he's like, I move, you move, I move, you move, is you want to be keeping up with your opponent. So if they're strong on one side, you want to be pushing on the opposite, and then they're going to try to catch that side, and you go to the opposite. It's like snaking. I really like that use of the shoulders to like break that grip though. He has such beautiful technique. He has this ability to pinpoint how what you're doing works. Like you understand how to step in or like how to pivot off to the side or something, but how to like insert power and timing into it in making it more of an explosive movement. He's like a completely methodical, like kind of paced, nice, distinct movement kind of fighter, but his timing and punctuation, he's so explosive, is to me really beautiful. So when I'm kneeing in space, right, he wants me to drive that hand down. I was putting it out as though I'm grabbing the neck and then just like hanging it. And he's like, no, you, in shadow, you pull the arm all the way down, because when you actually catch someone's neck, you are pulling it down. It's just caught on their neck, so you're yanking them. So in shadow, throw it the way that you would throw it on a kick. When you watch someone's pad work, you can see how they think in terms of like how you close that distance, what they're asking for, or how they catch you. He holds for a knee after almost each strike, which is really nice because that's how I move. The thing about being a really great knee fighter is it's about how you get to the knees that makes you kind of like powerful or distinct. Your knees are what's devastating. It's like getting to that point, but how you get to it is really what makes an elegant fighter or not. He's talking about distance again. So if you've done a 1-2 like off of a cross, that's a kick. But if you're going to be throwing a hook to the body, now you're close enough that you need to be throwing the knee. Like, understand the distance you're at, and that determines whether you're at kicking range or kneeing range. This sounds so obvious, and maybe some people are like, well, duh. But you have to feel it. I think a lot of us just throw what we feel like throwing without having trained ourselves to feel the distance that we're actually at for high efficacy. So he's coming towards me and teeping me, and it kind of made me super still. So he's trying to get me to feel the like give and take of I can go backwards or I can go forwards. I'm looking at the rhythm that we're making together kind of thing. I like his low kick. He's got this like nasty jump on it. It's like Ramba. Go watch the Ramba session. His low kicks are death.
One more. Now you keep this, try to fake at me. Keep on. And come, right up, fake, right, bang. Okay, one more.
So he's showing how to teep and then fake the teep and turn it into a knee. Because if you teep someone a couple of times and they go back, then you follow them. Like they keep going back. But they might take your teep and decide that they're going to come forward off of your teep, in which case you fake it and throw the knee. So that was not to the open side. That's what he's yelling at me about, is picking which side you're going to throw it on. You like that one. See how you don't let go? You follow? That's nice.
This side. Keep left. Fake left, right knee.
So he said if she's this style, and then he just switched stance. So he's talking about how if they're southpaw, now the open side has completely changed. And so it changes what you're faking and landing. Now I can be right side all day because he's standing southpaw. And they switched again. Nice. I actually blocked his kick, and it was like pinched between my block and my elbow, and he pulled me forward with it. It was really impressive. He's saying, look, 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 look. He's saying, like, watch your opponent. See what they're doing so that you know what you're doing. So see how he's doing what he was showing me earlier about the, like, stepping back in order to time that kick? The way I was coming forward was kind of just, like, dragging. So as I'm marching forward with my knees coming up, I can teep left or right. It doesn't matter. It's about timing. It's about when he's stepping back.
Now, if you style knee like this, forward, maybe get, or teep, or riding up, knee,เข้าใจไหมได้ไม่
So he's saying don't do the same thing all the time.
ก็ได้นี่ก็ได้เดินมาทีบน้ำออแยบ
Teep num. More Thai vocabulary. Num kind of means to do something first. So like, yeah, num, teep num means like jab first, teep first. Like this is how you're entering. Oh. You can see how he kind of pulls his style and pace out of me with how he's moving. It's really nice. This is how you can be shaped by a pad holder. I tried to kick his leg out the way he taught me, and he knew it was coming, so he moved his leg, and I punched him in the face.
Okay, now don't touch my neck.
So he had me grab his neck, and then he's like, now don't grab my neck, and remember to like drive the arm down. So your arm is going either way. It's either attached to the neck or not. Here again, he's adjusting that balance. See how my left foot is turning? That's where he's finding issue. He says you have to learn shadow. What he means is if you can knee with power and balance in shadow, you can 100% knee power and balance against an opponent. Someone who's a huge believer in this and tells me this all the time is Yod Kumpan. If you watch Yod Kumpan's shadow, the way he shadows his knees, he has total control all the time at every point in his knee. It makes it so it doesn't matter if you miss, which is really nice. But what are my arms doing? He's like, remember I showed you. There we go. And then rip someone to the side. I've got the turn, but there's no violence on it. That's why you need to learn it in shadow. He's saying I have to shadow box a lot. So I'm saying I can feel how sometimes when I'm shadow boxing, I don't control the knee. And then I showed him how to control the knee, and he was like, yeah, just do that. Oh, when he does it, you can see the power in it, and yet he has control at every second. Tango bye. That's the alternate. Remember I was saying you can say digo bye means the knee goes in. Tango bye. Tang means to like stab. Tango bye. Stabbing knee.
but ยับเลยเอาไว้โอ้ยชวนที่ยับ so
So this is just for power. But the reason this is important, and a reason that this actually should be brought out as a technique, is that I have heard from so many great fighters that technique and power have to go together. You cannot just be a technical fighter with no power, because then none of the technique is available to you ever, because you're just tired. If you have only power and no technique, you end up using your power all the time and you get tired really, really fast. So the two of them have to go together. It's kind of like, to use a kind of strange example, in the book, The Things They Carried, which is about the Vietnam War, he talks about how they used jars of peanut butter as like to warm their rations, because peanut butter oil burns. And then they had this other oil that was actually for the canteen that burns slow. And so you put them together. So you have a fast burner and a slow burner together. That's what technique and power are. One is kind of like a fast burn, and the other one is the long burn. And you want them to kind of go together. He's asking me how many times I've cut people, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe twice. And he's like, 2 times. How come you have so many scars? It's because I fight tall people. I tell him that I rush a little bit, but that's not really where I get my cuts from.
You have to know if cannot elbow first when you come.
He's saying if you can't elbow first,
I think
you wait for them to come and then you counter it.
But if you come, yes.
So if you're the one running in like a bull, you get elbowed.
Not under.
This is a cool point. When you come to clinch,
Hand hit. Sorry.
don't come from under. So many people train this way. So many, myself included.
From this,
Don't come to grip from under, come over.
but if you come like this, they don't can hit.
But just control the arms first. Like, this whole parry, this off-balance thing to land your knees, this totally protects you from everything, because you're just turning your opponent all the time. And if someone is like being pivoted from side to side, they don't have their power. They need to be straightforward to have all of their power.
Clinching, you not come
So you're
like
just turning them off all the time. I don't look like
this.
that.
Hand like this, or this. Also knee.
Same thing if someone's coming to knee, you can just push them to the side.
You can do left or right.
He actually, maybe like a month after this, he cornered for me in a fight, and this girl was coming to elbow me, and I was like pushing her elbow off to the side, exactly the way that he's teaching right here. So that's cool that that was like something that he taught me, and then it was in a fight that he cornered for me for.
On top, not under.
See how he's coming over? He's like, don't try to come inside and push out. Come from the outside and close in. See how I'm controlling his arms from there?
Ready. If you want to disable, put this hand down. Not
So
this side
basically you
down.
elbow
No,
on the same side that
If
you're
you
pushing
put
the hand
my
down.
hand, this side put my hand down.
He's saying push his hand down with my left hand, right? I'm not understanding what he's saying. You push down with the left hand and try to elbow with the right. You've created a huge opening on your left side. And if he sees it, he can just elbow over it faster.
Understand?
So keep your guard up,
If you want to do
bat
elbow,
down,
this
and
side,
elbow on the same
bang
side.
this side. If this
Oh,
side,
his elbows are
bang
pretty.
this
They
side.
remind me of Crew Guy.
But Muay
Crew
Thai,
Guy is also
this-
in the Muay
this
Thai
is
library. He's got very
this
tight,
is lock.
close elbows like
Elbow
that.
is still inside. Slippy, you know. Oil massage, oil with slim. It's easy. Remember, if someone try to you like this, you just this hand is lock. Just
This, I love. Look at that.
to lock.
Pardon my language. Look at that fucking elbow. As I'm coming to grab his neck, he just
You just ready.
elbows tight on the opposite side.
I lock like this. Grab my neck. Oh, your arm, my arm. This just up.
So I grab his arm as he's coming to grab my neck.
Good time to
So I'm
elbow
stopping
because close already.
him grabbing my neck and elbowing
Because
on the
I told
opposite
you
side.
to lock this because make she don't move. Understand? And good to hit.
You grab that arm first so that she can't get away from you. You're like locking it, you're just latching them in place and then bop on the other side. Oh,
ใช่เลยเราใช้แรง power power is coming to you
ใช่ใช่นี่
up up เลย up อ่า
because they're closing in to grab you at the same time.
ไปเข้าใจไหมนี่ protect ไป
You just make a very, very tight
ชี้ไป
movement. They're doing half the work for you.
You like elbow but never cut only 2 times 200 fire
He's like, your elbows are good, but you're the one who's always cut. I don't throw them.
show me elbow
I will.
huh? What you กลัว you many already
ใหญ่กว่า very ใหญ่กว่า
oh okay if too tall is no
So-
you cannot
He's
bring down
Kevin just told him that my opponents are all tall, or taller, bigger than me. And he's like, if someone is taller than you, you can't get to their head. So instead, you do this fucking spear elbow into their solar plexus. Oh, man.
ใช่ใช่ if too tall
This would back you up, man. It doesn't matter how tough you are. You take that elbow into your chest, you are not coming forward anytime soon. It's so nasty.
she taller how to hit on face too tall
He's like, if she's too tall, how are you going to hit her in the face? Just hit her in the chest. Oh,
ไทยโบราณ
ใช่
Boran. Yeah, he says Muay Thai Boran.
ทำเลย
Look at how he steps on it, though. Ugh. Fuck. Ugh.
just put forward just put forward
It's like the rhino elbow. So nice. He gave me the name for it. So Pung.
very pain oh my god okay
Oh my god, he says. Totally. That's how I feel about it also.
stop
This was cool. Okay, so I've done these knees many, many times. It's when you have a pad holder and you're a knee fighter, they have you do this for power. So you just lock onto the neck and throw knees. He made a point of actually not having a super tight grip. You want your grip to be have a little bit of flexibility in it. And he's making my head go back and forth to opposite sides of his head to really drive my knees. So instead of like hyper locking my grip, which is what I've always done doing these knees, he said have a little bit of flexibility in that part of it to be able to go back and forth and then just really drive the knees. See how he's even manipulating my head a little bit? He really wants it to be going from side to side.
4
Usually you do 50 to 100 of these.
1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9
Oh, power.
It's good. More slim shot.
You have to have a pad holder with a strong back to be able to do that. Oh, that's Krupot. Krupot is amazing. Phuket King Muay Thai, if you're in Phuket, go check him out. This is slow motion that Kevin and I have been doing as part of a project of getting slow motion with these amazing, amazing fighters. You can see so much of how they move, where their balance is, how smooth they are. Look at how loose his hands are. The bend in his knees. Total control on those knees. You can also see where his focus is. Like his eyes kind of have this soft focus in the distance. His offense and defense totally work together. You can see these moments where he's like blocking someone who's advancing towards him. He doesn't rush in. There's that elbow he just showed me. Oh. The softness of the hands drives me crazy when these guys shadow. Look at the bend in his heels, in his knees. Oh. And you can see where he sees his own finishing move too. Like that knee ended the fight for him.